Well, had a great
Good morning,
week.
Revolution.
We
Morning.
had one here in New York, and we got several things to talk about this morning. One is an important cultural and political event in our life. It has to do with the great artist Prince. Secondly, we're going to talk about the Amazon strike, big victory in Staten Island this week. Thirdly, the confirmation of Justice Brown. She's one of the Supremes now, and very happy about that. Finally, abortion in Oklahoma. It's outlined, and then our mailbag question, and then our lightning round. So um, let's get started. Sometimes things that just warm your heart happen in our life, and that happened to me this morning when uh, actually 2 mornings ago, when I came across a story about the artist Prince when he was a child in Minneapolis. And don't you know that the teachers were on strike in 1970? And one of the news stations interviewed Prince, and they found the footage in their archive. And it tells a wonderful story. Can you roll that? Guess
Are
what's
most of the kids in favor of the picketing?
Yep.
How come?
Um, I think they should get a better education too, um, and I think they should get some more money, cause they be working extra hours for us and all that.
Isn't that beautiful? Friends in support of the striking teachers. He was quite a personality. I don't know what his politics were, but he certainly made a huge impact on U.S. culture. Um, do any of y'all got a favorite Prince song, Rosanna?
I do.
Which
Yeah,
one?
I love When Doves Cry. That just
There
really
you go.
struck home in the in the words that he uses. It's like it reminded me of like the domestic violence conflict,
Mm,
of
there
two
you
of a
go.
couple who are engaged in this domestic violence issues, but they still have this love and affection for themselves, for each other.
Mm.
It's a conflict.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Anita, you got a favorite Prince
I
song?
well, when we talked about this off air, and I looked up Purple Rain, which was really the one I remember best, and it came out in 1984, July 84. And that year, I was just listening to strictly reggae music. So if it wasn't produced in Kingston, it wasn't really on my radar at the time. So I have a very narrow musical taste at any one
Scott, your
time. So,
favorite
but
Prince
Purple
song?
Rain, I remember.
Uh, I'm partial to Little Red Corvette. It's just a
Little
catchy song.
Red Corvette. I always dreamed of driving one. There you go. There you go. Prince, the name of his band. Does anybody remember the name of his band?
The Revolution. Prince and the
Prince and
Revolution.
the Revolution. And I heard a story. I don't know if it's true or not, but our producer Taryn said this morning that when he would check into a hotel, guess whose name he used to as a pseudonym so nobody would know that he was there? Karl Marx. Karl Marx. Long live Prince and the Revolution. Long live the solidarity with the striking teachers. Long live this great genius of our class and our people. Speaking of important strike struggles, there was a big victory in Staten Island over, I believe it was last Friday we got the news. The union won. I think they had a big margin of victory, and it was the first uh, Amazon warehouse to unionize in these United States, maybe on on the whole planet. And it shook Jeff Bezos up. I think that the union leader, Brother Small, said that Bezos was up in space and they were organizing the union. So, uh, Anita, any reflections
Yes.
on that victory?
Well, it's just an amazing event, and I just have to celebrate all those people who worked so hard to get this off the ground without any big union support behind them. They were really, it was a worker-driven struggle, and I was really glad to see that that Justine and Chris Smalls came out, and Justine Medina and Chris Smalls are writing a new preface to William Z. Foster's pamphlet about how to organize steelworkers. My comrades and I read that pamphlet a couple of years ago, and every word of it is still so relevant today in terms of how to organize workers. So it's just a wonderful victory. Congratulations to them.
Rosanna, you got some warehouses out there in Southern California that are trying to organize as well, isn't that so?
Yes, we do. And I think this is a big boost to workers. It gives them a lot of hope that, it is possible. And I think it's not going to be just isolated in New York. New York. There are other warehouses and deliveries facilities that I think a lot of workers will be motivated to organize and get their fair share. And it's the people's movement what brings about real fundamental change. So this is a good example that we can hang on to. And we have to also support them because their struggle is not over. So we have to be ready to support them in any way that they call on us to do so.
Very true. I mean, they won the vote to form the union, but now they got to find they have to get a contract, Scott, and getting a it's like you win a office for elected office, and then the real work begins. You win the vote to form a union. Now the real work begins, negotiating
Yeah,
a contract. And then I understand that there's another warehouse near there that across the street or something that's going to have a vote in a couple of weeks. So big news, encouraging news, hopeful news for our working class and people's movement, led mainly by young people. So I understand, or youngish. I've never met Mr. Smalls, but I understand, or most of the leadership of that effort, but I understand that they're young and they're intelligent and they're courageous and they're militant and they've earned our undying respect for that victory. Let's move the conversation now then to another big development. Yesterday, Judge Ketanji Brown was confirmed by a vote of what was it, 53 to 49. Three Republicans broke rank. Big surprise to me. I didn't think none of them jokers were gonna, but they did under great pressure from the broad public, and a historic victory, Scott. They did 114 justices and the first African American woman. Hugely
absolutely.
important development.
Hugely important. And, it's worth remembering that, how we think about the relation between the class struggle and other democratic struggles for equality. They don't always follow exactly the same path, but they track together. This is a huge victory, not just for the African American people, not just for women, but for the entirety of the U.S. people and the U.S. working class. And the other thing that I've been reminding myself of is these Republicans that broke rank to vote in favor of confirmation. Um, in a certain sense, it was also an opportunistic move, right? They get to they're susceptible to accusations of racism, of support for white supremacy. So they were able to, do something that was clearly, counter to that, while not endangering the, supermajority of the hard majority of conservatives already on the court. I think if it were a question where the direction of the court were hanging in the balance, then there might have been a couple of Republican votes that were different. But yeah, it's a wonderful achievement. She's certainly a qualified, overqualified, if possible, nominee, and I can't wait to read some of what she writes from the bench.
One of the criticisms coming from certain sectors of the left is that, this is just corporate multiculturalism. Symbol or substance, Anita? Is this symbol or substance, in your opinion?
Wow, that's a great question. I think sometimes symbolic politics are really important, and I think she is an important symbol. And her presence there will be is symbolic of this rise to power that African American women it's long overdue, and finally they're the first Black woman vice president was the one who called the vote and said this nominee is approved. So it was a beautiful moment for African American women. I can't imagine. I just saw it in the eyes of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson when she received the news. She was watching the monitor. That was a wonderful moment too. It's sad that the Republicans made such a disgrace of themselves and then went slinking off after the vote. It was just their behavior is atrocious, and I think it will those chickens will come home to roost eventually too. We'll see.
Rosanna, symbol or substance? The confirmation of Ketanji Brown.
I think it's substance. I think, it symbolizes, not symbolize, I don't use that word. It shows that the Republicans had to fold. So it's substance, it's substantial. I think it also shows that, we now have representation of a woman of color there, to along with Sotomayor, and then I think it's a sign of the times. I don't think it's just symbolism. Symbolism to me seems like it's only temporary, and I don't see it that way. I see it as permanent, and we just gotta keep at it.
Scott, good point, Rosanna. Symbol or substance?
Substance, absolutely. I think most of these democratic gains that get dismissed as, identity politics, corporate multiculturalism, woke posturing, whatever, they are substantial things. Yes, sections of the ruling class will try to turn them into superficial, symbols, but this is a substantial step. For every step toward equality is a substantial step forward.
I agree. One, the symbol is substance, number one, but it's not confined to that. It's not confined to that on a whole range of issues, from union rights to voting rights to the right to choose. She will come down on the right side of history, and she will defend the democratic aspirations of the American people. And that's hugely important, particularly in a situation where we are fighting a right-wing fascist danger. And speaking of the right to choose, in the state of Oklahoma, I mean, is it true, Anita, that abortion rights have been completely outlawed?
Oh my God, it's just atrocious. Well, I've used that word before. Why does it seem like so pertinent today? But abortion rights are under attack all across the country. Oklahoma is just the latest one. There's a great abortion legislation tracker on the Washington Post page now that shows many states are going after these 15-week abortion bans, like Mississippi has, and they're going after the Texas-style abortion bans. They're banning pills. The next step is banning birth control. I mean, it's just, and it's a working class. It's an attack on the working class. Working class women are the ones who are going to be suffering from these laws, not wealthy women who can fly to Colorado or one of those, the many other states who have really protected their right to abortion up and down the West Coast and the New England area. They're really reinforcing their right to an abortion. So it's really dividing the country. It's a terrible thing. Women are really going to suffer and, die in some cases because of these laws.
Scott, Anita says this is a working class issue, and that's very true because the majority of our working class are working women, something like 52%. But this is also an issue for men, or isn't it?
It is.
And if it is,
it is absolutely an issue for men because
what
this is.
Why is it, and what should men do?
Men have to be right out there alongside women fighting for reproductive freedom, which, as Marxists, as communists, we don't have a narrow vision of that. It's not just about abortion. It's about the right to make decisions about our health, our bodies, our families, our, to form ourselves into family groupings according to our hearts, our emotions, our desires, rather than according to the dictates of one or another section of the ruling class. This is a basic issue of freedom. And so as a man, I'm fighting for reproductive freedom because I support women, but also because this is a basic issue of human freedom that affects all of us.
Well, and Rosanna, they say that they're outlawing the pill as well. I mean, every single effort is being made to deny women abortion rights, and so now, I mean, it's as a mother.
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, I think Scott and Anita are correct, but also there's another result of this is that there's a line being driven. The abortion is being used to draw this line of you're either a Republican or a Trump supporter, or you're a liberal or communist or whatever. I think it causes people to draw the line. I know I have family members who simply on this abortion issue, that's who they vote for, come elections. Oh, if he's against abortion, I'm against abortion. Never mind what any other position it is. It's, oh, well, I'm against abortion, so I'm going to vote this way. So I think it also, it's being used to divide us in a way that we're not really aware, and keep us focused on just one single issue without looking at the full picture. And I think that that's also a big danger.
Well, we have to redouble our efforts, y'all. And that's why this election coming up in November is so important. It's hugely important because, what the Supreme Court restricts the House of Representatives and the Senate can give license to, can enlarge, can reverse. And therefore, we have to work really, really hard to elect candidates that support voting rights, that support a woman's right to choose, that support union rights on down the line. Let's move the discussion, if we might, to our mailbag. We always get questions every day, every week of the year from our listening audience. And this week we want to address a question raised by someone who wrote in and they wanted to know our attitude towards business. If you got a good business and it's treating its employees fairly, it's making quality products, if it's environmentally conscious, they got green technology going on, uh, would you support uh, government intervention? Is that justified? I mean, they're doing all things right. And if so, why? Scott?
Well,
Smiling.
I think,
Like to
yeah, I
go
think
on.
it's kind of disingenuous to talk about government intervention versus non-intervention in the market, because there's always government intervention. Markets don't exist without states to, they've never existed without states to structure them and provide the, you know, to basically do what it takes to make people confident in the market. So the question is, in whose favor does the government intervention swing? Is it in the favor of the owners of the business, of the shareholders, of the billionaires, or is it in the favor of the people? And if you have a business that's paying thriving wages, providing job security, making quality products, not harming the earth, then there's a good chance that the a government with a socialist or with a people's orientation would not see, would have already intervened to get you there and would not probably be meddling too much. But again,
Okay, let me sharpen the
the government is
question.
always intervening. So
I'm sharpening the question. Sharper. Are you ready? They're doing all these good things. They're paying good wages. They're taking care of the environment. They're producing quality projects. Socialist revolution comes. Workers are in power. Anita, will you expropriate them boys?
Yes, I would, Joe, because look at the nice graphic that our producer found for us, the monopoly banker, the finance capitalists of the monopoly game. Huge profits are being taken away from those workers. Those workers are creating value. And what's happening to it? They're getting their paltry wages and they're being convinced by the media that they're good wages. And then the owners of the company are making off with billions of dollars. So exploitation is still the problem here. And workers need to, instead of just accepting their fate and thinking it's the good thing, they need to organize themselves and take back some of that value. Even if their employers are benevolent people, they don't vote for who's going to be the head of the company next. It could be a tyrant coming in next time. So I think people need to organize and get that value back out of the pockets of billionaires.
Rosanna, you agree with Anita? You'd expropriate them? And now I want to sharpen the question even further. With compensation or
Uh-oh.
without compensation? If the answer is yes.
No, I think makes incredible profits. If they're making incredible profits, they're not paying way good income, providing good income for their workers. That means that they're keeping some of that labor wealth, and I think would be wrong in our society that we want to build. We're trying to eliminate exploitation of its every kind. So I think we
that's, a,
we would have to definitely intervene.
that's
Scott?
exactly right. If they're um, if they're making incredible profit, nobody makes incredible profits while paying fair wages, and not like somewhere along the line they're getting something for free, and it's a combination of labor. In this case, probably the labor of people in countries under sort of imperialist domination. But yeah, so expropriation. The question of compensation, my favorite story on that is what the Cuban Revolution did, where they said, we're nationalizing these things. We're going to pay you for them at the full value you declared on your tax forms. And because all these companies had been massively underpaying their taxes, they were in this position where they were, up against a wall. They didn't have any choice, and so they fled Cuba rather than accepting a fair, the fair value, the declared value of their companies. So
My
I want to see
answer,
something like that, just because I think it's great.
it depends. It depends on the place of the business in the economy and its size. If it is part of the basic uh, infrastructure of the country and the main means of production in energy or in basic industry or in high finance, the answer is yes. However, if it's a small business or medium size, not necessarily. Not necessarily. It depends on the stage of the revolution, where we are, and what our short and medium term goals are with respect to economic production. We're going to move to our lightning round. Scott, short answer. The main struggle in the world today is the fight against authoritarianism and for democracy. Yes or no?
False. No,
False?
the main struggle is the struggle for democracy, which includes the class struggle. Authoritarianism is an ideological fiction invented by the ruling class to muddle things up. The main enemy of democracy is the capitalist class.
Your homeboy Joe Biden's going to be mad at you because he went to Warsaw, Poland, and he said that the main fight in the world today is against authoritarianism. You must not have been listening. What about you, Anita? The main struggle in the world today is against authoritarianism and for democracy. Yes or no?
No, it's against capitalism and exploitation of workers, just like we said, argued a minute ago.
But what about
That's my
Erdogan
lightning answer.
in Hungary and the Saudi royal family and Putin and Bolsonaro and Trump? I mean, isn't that a big struggle? Anita?
Well, I just think the real problem is capitalism, and capitalism does enable those certain people to make the lives of their working class miserable, and I think they need to be struggled against too. But the main axis of variation there is not authoritarianism and non-authoritarianism.
Are you saying that we have to overthrow capitalism before we can overthrow Trump?
We keep both going at once, and we don't
The
have to
struggle against
overthrow.
fascism.
He got voted out.
The main fight in the world today is against authoritarianism and for democracy. What say you?
False. I say false. I think it's against really fascism and the fight for democracy.
I agree. I don't like the term authoritarianism as a descriptive political concept that's so widely used today, including by some so-called leftists. And you want to know why? Scott? You want to know why?
I do want to know why, but for me, it's an updated version
Oh,
of
it's
that concept of
classless.
totalitarianism.
It's classless. It's classless. It has no basis in Marxist political discourse. Because there's working class rule and there's capitalist rule. And within the framework of both, there are different forms of government. What exists in what they're striving for in Venezuela today is different than what they're striving for in China. So you have to build a political state and forms of popular power based on the conditions in each particular country. And not only that, the relative balance of forces on the planet. Because if you got world imperialism lined up against you, plotting assassinations, Rosanna, the way they plotted assassinations against Fidel Castro, That's going to determine the form of government that you have. You can't ignore that. Am I right or wrong?
Yep, you're right.
Well,
Not to
thank you
mention that
very much.
democracy
That
takes
was
many
interesting.
forms that are not like,
Scott?
you know, multi-party US style so-called democracy is not the only or even the best form of democratic governance. Cuba has a democratic infrastructure that's much richer than ours.
For the record, I am for working class power in the United States in the form of a multi-party democracy led by the working class. And when I think that when we have a revolution, as Gus Hall used to say, we're going to write the book on how to do a revolution. Anyway, I got the last word. Thank you very much, everybody. Good morning, revolution. Stay strong, stay safe, stay in the fight. Have a good week.